Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming for this program. What we have in mind today is a step in advancement to what we did last year. We did make an attempt last year to have a sort of a career panel discussion, as you recall. We had 3-4 of our youngsters coming up and talking about their experiences, about what they did or in college, how they were able to get into the colleges, and what they are doing now. Taking a cue from there, we thought one of the things our community could benefit in terms of advancing our career, both in terms of college as well as professionally, would be to have people who are already doing similar things in real life to come and talk to us and give their counsel, so we can get benefit out of that. I'd like to introduce the panelists we have briefly, and I'll let them talk more about what they do themselves so that they can give you a little more better perspective of that before they start. So if you will, we have first our guest here for today is Mr. Terence Badawi from MIT Educational Talent Search Program. He is in Cambridge, Mass. And Terence is, he has an office in MIT. He takes care of the high school outreach program for Cambridge and Somerville. And so what he does is basically find ways and means of telling students from 8th grade through the 12th grade, or I guess he starts even from the 6th grade onwards, as to how to attune them to find out what they want to do in college, which college they want to get into, and not necessarily MIT. All the colleges and whatever is their right places where they should fit into. In fact, when I mentioned his name earlier on to the youth participants in an earlier meeting, somebody said, we don't necessarily need an MIT person. So he's not that. He's not here to get you into MIT. He's giving his counsel to us to help us find the right educational opportunities for as kids and as parents, what we should expect from various college requirements. So I'm sure he will give us his profound wisdom on what he thinks we should know before we apply and what are the right colleges that we go into. So we would like to welcome at this time Mr. Terence Badawi. I told Terence the program, the difficulties we have with IST timing, so we can never start our programs in time. So he's aware of our limitations to that time factor. I also like to welcome his beloved wife, Elizabeth, who is the back here, the lights turning me from Srigar. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us this evening. Also, so what we have is we have the a gentleman who will give us a knowledge as to what we should do to get into college. Then after college, what do? We have to find a job. So we have from our own community a distinguished 4-member career panelist who can give us their experience They've been to colleges, they've been through this process, and they have gotten into good jobs in their life. And I congratulate all of these 4 young people. I'd like to first start off with Benny Quirian. Benny is a cable TV news producer in Connecticut, Channel 12, cable TV channel in Norwalk, Connecticut. She used to be in Long Island, New York with the cable TV program in Long Island. And she got promoted. I believe she started as the reporter or co-producer. Okay, I'll let you deal with that. And she's the producer of the TV channel it's a news weather channel in Norwalk. I've taken my son with the Scout program to watch a studio, and she does a great job. She has she's in the background helping out with the entire scheduling and so forth. And it's a great privilege to have among our midst a person like Benny in a job like this. I mean, I haven't seen anybody, especially in TV journalism. It's a great. We should, as a community, we should be proud of the fact that we have a person like Benny Quirian in this position. I'd like to welcome Benny to this program. Thank you. Having said that, we need everybody. So we have an attorney, Suni. Suni just passed a bar exam recently, and she, I believe, taking care of civil cases now. Okay, and Suni is from Massachusetts, and I'd like to welcome Suni at this point. Thank you very much for your time. And Sujit name may not appear in the program because we weren't sure that he's coming, but Sujit is with Allied Signal. He's an engineer with Allied Signal. Allied Signal is a big company making all kinds of things, chemicals to plastics to airbags. And Sujit is with the airbags division of Allied Signal. They make the airbags for various cars all over the world, and there are only 2 or 3 companies who do that in the United States, I believe, in the world. And he is in that particular section, so he is an engineer by qualification. I'd like to welcome Sujit for coming to this program too. And last but not the least, our dear Paul. Paul is an engineer, environmental engineer, and he has been, most of you know Paul very well, so I guess let Paul give his brief introduction about what he does and so forth. So I'd like to welcome Paul again to the program. Thank you, Paul. Having said that, what we will do is, if there's anybody else whom we have not identified, I mean, we will have opportunities down the line to do that. But as we move along during the year, if there are anybody whom we haven't seen what they're doing, we can give you a counsel, you can give your experience to the rest of us. That will be a great help for us to know what you do and what opportunities are out there for other people who are looking for a similar job or something in the same area. And after this discussion, what we will do now would be, I think we're still waiting for a few more people to turn in, especially the younger people who would probably get the counsel of Terence. So initially I want to let Terence go first, but we thought we'll let him go at the end so that more people can get the benefit of his counsel. And we'll start off with Benny, and we'll follow up with Suni, Sujit, and Paul in that order, and then we'll probably have a question and answer session after that, and then maybe move on to Terence, and then leave the floor to anybody who wants to ask questions. Right, Benny.
Hello. I'm going to try and keep this real short and simple, and there's a lot of things that I do. So try and explain it. And I just want you to know if there are any terms I use and you don't necessarily understand it, feel free to just raise your hand and tell me to explain what exactly that means, because sometimes I get used to the jargon and I may not realize that not everyone's familiar with it. I am a television news producer and a freelance reporter. And that's basically 2 jobs rolled up in one, because they are connected in some ways. It's a very competitive business. Broadcast journalism is very competitive, but if you love what you do and you're dedicated and willing to work really hard, it's really easy to go far, because they do reward you for your hard work. So if you're interested in taking this path and maybe, going into something like this, it is possible, and whether you're Indian or whatever, it's not that difficult. I graduated from Buffalo State College, which is in New York, in December 1993 with a broadcast journalism degree. I knew what I wanted to do my final year in high school. So I started doing internships. I did an internship with CBS Television in New York, and throughout my college career did a lot of internships, and that is really the key to getting your foot in the door, because once people recognize that you're interested and you go out and volunteer to do things, they more or less start taking you under their wings and showing you what you need to know to get far. So I did that all through college. As soon as I graduated, thanks to a couple of lucky breaks, I met the right people and got involved directly after graduation with the industry, which is rare, and it doesn't happen often, so I think luck had played a big role in all of this. But I started with Eye on Asia, which is an Indian television program that airs on Channel 31 in New York, and I was doing some writing for them, and I did some anchoring every once in a while. Problem was, I didn't want to be an Indian in an Indian station. That's not what the goal was. I mean, I'm more familiar with American television, and I wanted to be a minority that wasn't represented, and that's why I kind of left that and went on to News 12. What News 12 is a 24-hour cable news operation. It's the local CNN, if you may. It's the new up-and-coming trend around the area. We have 4 stations, News 12 Long Island, Connecticut, Westchester, and New Jersey, with 24-hour news, traffic, weather, sports. It's everything and anything you need to know about your community. So it's not national news necessarily. We kind of talk about the school plays that will affect you, and the news that you're interested in is what we cover. So I started as a freelancer, which basically means they call you, and whenever they call you, you're available, and you go in and you do what you're told and get coffee and do whatever you're supposed to do, and you make your inroads. Did that for about a year and became an associate producer, and finally got an opportunity to transfer to Connecticut to become a producer. What a producer does is real basic. Anything and everything you watch on a half-hour newscast is a producer's call. The story order, what your lead story is for the day, if there's a big fire, those decisions are made by producers. The stories we don't cover, those are stories that a decision a producer makes, whether we want to talk about something that may have happened or whether it plays a role in this 30-minute newscast that you have. When you see a little box on the side of the anchor's head, that's a producer's call. What that box says, whether you have that box there, whether you don't have that box there, that's a producer's call. Whether you have video, whether it's something that the anchor is just saying. I wish we had a television and I had a tape to kind of show you this because it's hard to visualize, but anything and everything you see on a half-hour newscast is a producer's call. What a director does is take that idea that the producer had and make it happen. So if I say, I want the anchor to read a story about something, that director is the one that makes it happen. Real quick example, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is what's called a rundown. And we pretty much put the whole show of what the show is going to look like on this piece of paper. And we go through it. We'll just say, first story today was the Bridgeport fire. Bridgeport's an area in Connecticut, huge fire that happened. Next thing, the Olympic torch is running through. This is a court case, someone was found guilty. We'll just go through this whole thing, put it on a rundown. Everyone gets a copy of this. And this is what you see on television. This starts off with a piece of paper, and the next thing you know, you have a half-hour newscast that all of you watch and hopefully become informed after you watch it. So that's a producer's job, basically. And on a daily basis, I have a 6 to 9 morning show that runs every day. And we do traffic news and weather. We have about 15 people that work under me. And, we basically gear our news towards the commuters, people who are walking out in the morning. And so I go in and pick the stories that we're going to cover for the day, put the show together, hope that it looks good on air, and do it day in and day out. And each day is different, and that's probably the best part about the job. You never know whether it's going to be a really boring news day where nothing happens, and the biggest story is that, someone's having a PTA meeting. Or you hope that there's you don't hope, but you get really excited if a plane crashes. And you have a big news day, and it's busy, and you're there going live for as many hours as you possibly can. So I do that for Connecticut, and on a side note, on weekends, I'm also a freelance reporter, which basically is me on air on Long Island whenever I can. I'll go out and cover stories. I'll anchor some of their morning newscasts, and they'll send you out on the craziest stories. You know, you'll be wearing a dress with heels, and they'll send you to fires where you have to kind of go through fields and things like that. So it's interesting. It's an interesting job. You never know what the day's going to hold, and that's kind of neat. It's not very glamorous. Anyone who thinks that just being on television, you sit and smile and it's easy work is wrong, very wrong. For my morning show, it runs from 6 to 9. I wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning every day to get in, to put the show on the air, because it takes 5 hours of prep time to do a 3-hour newscast. So my hours are from 1 a.m. until 10 a.m., so it's the night shift. And at 6 o'clock, whether I'm sleepy or not sleepy, the show goes on the air, and it ends at 9. And so if you had a rough night and you went out or something like that, it doesn't matter, because you want to know what the news is, and you don't want to hear that I was sleepy today. So it's tough. It's not an easy job, but again, I love it, and that's what makes it different. For reporting purposes, if you've ever seen a reporter go out in the field and cover a story, it may be 2 minutes long. You'll hear everything, the who, what, when, where, why, and hows about what happened. That reporter took 8 hours to do that story, which is something that people have a hard time understanding, because you've seen them for 2 seconds, you see them on the air, you see their face on the air for maybe 15 seconds tops. But they spent 8 hours. They got there at 9 o'clock in the morning and barely made their deadline at 5 o'clock. And so it takes a lot of work. You go out, you ask the questions, you get your story, you come back, you have to edit it and get it all down to a real concise story so that you're not bored by the time you finish hearing it, yet you know all the pertinent information you need to know to be able to say you understood what happened. So that's basically the job. Like I said, there are lots of opportunities. There are not many Indians. I don't think, I know there are no Indians where I work at any of the News 12s. So it's nice. It's nice to be. It's nice to represent a group that is not represented in the industry. But at the same time, it's tough, because you cannot work everywhere in the world, because there are very few markets in this country that recognize people of ethnicity. So you can't just go to Alabama and expect to get a job. So you are kind of cornered into certain markets, and it just so happens that the markets you're cornered into are the bigger markets, and it's very rare that you can start in New York, in Boston, in Washington, the places that are willing to accept you. So that's the catch-22 in that sense. You're supposed to start at these tiny places, and these tiny places won't take you. So it's tough. It's also hard being a woman to do it also, because being a producer, I'm in charge of a lot of people, and chances are a lot of those tech people are men. And the directors, people that you're telling what to do, are guys. But with all of that in mind, it's still, like I said, it is not that difficult. If you love what you do, it's real easy to get into it. If you stick with it, you get to know a lot of people and are willing to willing to do what you have to do to get to where you want to be. It's real simple. And a person once told me this: if you just love what you do and not think about the money, it'll follow eventually. So I'm not thinking about the money right now. But like I said, it's a good profession. So anyone who is interested in doing it and would like more information about it can talk to me. And if you have any questions in terms of what I do, that too, you can, I guess, talk to me about it. All right. Thank you.
I think what we'll do is, thanks a lot, Benny. We'll just leave the floor open for maybe 2 minutes for any questions, or anybody who wants to ask anything to Benny, so that she can cover that right now, and then we'll probably have an open-ended session, maybe 5 minutes after. So right now we have 2 minutes. Anybody have any questions to Benny?
You have to do a show at 6 tomorrow?
No.
It's it's amazing the things that go on behind the scene. I was there, and what they do is, you have these commercials coming up, and you see Benny doing all kinds of things. They have this time 8, 9, 5, 7. I mean, it's technically very difficult to do, I guess, but it's an amazing thing. I mean, it requires a lot of ability, I believe, to survive in that industry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I figured this would be neat. I brought this with me, and I didn't get to show you. This is script paper. This is what you see the anchors always turning. When you wonder what it is on their paper that they're turning. These are the stories that we basically write, because we write all the stories that they read, because they're just reading. When they're sitting there, they're not memorizing the news or anything like that. There's a camera here, and then there's a screen right next to it, so you don't see their eyes move, but they're actually reading the things that you write for them. So when they're turning those papers that are on the desk, those papers are just there in case that thing breaks and they need to go back and look at something, but they're never really referring to what's on the table. So, just quick example here, we had, good morning, my anchor's name is Marianne Laughlin. Good morning, I'm Marianne Laughlin. Here are some of our top stories. A bridge fire forces 200 people to evacuate Pleasure Beach. The Olympic torch is winding its way through southwest Connecticut today, and the Chicago Bulls emerges as the NBA champions. Highlights when we come back. And this is exactly what they read, and this is what you'll be hearing, and it just kind of passes through as they're going. So, if you want to take a look at this later or whatever, it's kind of neat.
It's all you.
Yeah, I know. We run last month every day. So anyway, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that's kind of neat to understand. And my parents came by last week and was amazed that the weatherman really doesn't have a map behind him. It's just a blank green wall, and he doesn't know what he's pointing at, really. So there really is no map there. That's just for television purposes. So we can do a lot with television, actually. So be very careful when there's a camera around.
That's very true. I don't know how many of you know that when the weatherman points at the screen, hardly there's nothing on the screen. On the live studio, there's nothing there. It's a blank blue color wall, green color wall. And you see, if you go to CNN in Atlanta, they take you on a studio tour also. That's the first time I saw that. And I was amazed. And a lot of people don't see it. But he knows exactly where he's pointing. So when he says Miami, he knows he points his finger at the right place. But I think they have a TV set, television set in front of them, so they can see what is going on. So he points his finger here, but he can see himself in the television set. So, but when he points it, there's nothing there.
And he can never wear green. If you ever look at a weatherman, they'll never wear green, because if they wear green, the map will show up on their body. So they'll disappear with the map. So there's no weatherman that'll ever wear green. So on St. Patrick's Day, they have a lot of trouble because they can't wear green ties or anything. It's called keying out. The map will actually key out on the green, so you'll be able to see it through them.
Great, appreciate that. Anybody else? Anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, Benny, where do you think you will be in 5 years from now?
Hopefully not here. With us, there isn't. You don't progress further than a producer at any one station. That's the highest you can possibly go. But what you do is you progress within stations. So I want to get out of cable eventually. If not out of cable, at least to a better cable station. Either go network to a better market. Eventually work somewhere else. I'm looking into CNN soon. And if not there, then another market in another country, in another state, where it's maybe New York, maybe Boston, things like that. So you go to different stations and you do the same thing, but you do it at a better station, so you have more capabilities and more toys to play with.
Yeah, this is our Katie Curry, right? Yeah, that's right. With that, I think we'll move on with Suni, the attorney, to give her scenario.
Hello, I'm Suni. I'm actually from Massachusetts, so it didn't take me that long to get here. Unlike Benny's job, which everybody's new with, I think everybody here knows what it's kind of like to be an attorney because we've all watched O.J. Simpson. That's not really what it's like to be an attorney, but let me tell you a little bit about myself. I went to Wheaton College, which is right here in Norton, Massachusetts, not too far from here, and I dual majored in political science and legal studies. like Benny, I knew from a young point in college that I wanted to be a lawyer, that I wanted to go to law school. And so I prepared myself in getting there. Right now, I'm working in public interest law. I graduated in May of 1995. I took the bar exam, which is an 8-week preparation and a 3-day event. I received my results in November, and I'm pleased to say that I passed. And it was a very momentous time for me. I started practicing in criminal defense, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's a very trying and challenging area of the law. I now work for a child protective agency, which is here in Massachusetts is called the Department of Social Services. So basically what I do is I work in public interest law. I'd like to discuss about 3 things today with everybody. Why I went to law school, what to expect from law school, and what it's like to be a practicing, full-fledged, bar-certified attorney. I went to law school because, first of all, I love public speaking. I like to be in front of audiences, and I thought, wow, I want to be in front of the court, I want to be in front of the judge, I want to be in front of a jury, and I love to talk. So I thought, okay, there's one thing. The other thing I thought is, I love cases. I like to, listen to the news and hear that this person did this to this person, now they're in court and this is happening, and all the different statutes and common law there. I love to hear about all that. And I loved courtroom drama. This person represented this person and now he's in jail, but he's out on appeal and things like that. So I always thought, wow, I have a knack for the law. I really like listening to it. I like hearing about it. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to law school. Law school is nothing like that. If you think you want to go to law school, you should be able to think to yourself, well, do I like to read? Because reading is 95% of being a lawyer. The other 5% is researching the law. And that's pretty much what law is all about. It's reading and researching. So what you need to know before you go to law school is, do I like to read? Do I like to research? How good am I at reading comprehension? How good am I at analytical reasoning? Things like that. That's what law school is all about. It's not the drama of being in the courtroom. Although I am a litigation attorney, so I spend 4 out of 5 days a week in the court. I'm in front of judges. Once in a while I'm in front of a jury. I'm arguing motions. I try cases. And it's very, very interesting and very challenging. What else to expect from law school? Like I said, a small number of attorneys see the courtroom. Most of the people that are litigation attorneys do criminal law, they do family law, some civil stuff, but a lot of the attorneys don't go in the courtroom. They're corporate attorneys, business attorneys, people that do administrative law. Those are the people that deal with big businesses, deal with corporations. They don't even see the courtroom. So you don't have to love to speak, love to be in front of people to be an attorney. You can just have a desire to learn the law, to know the legal aspects of a corporation, to know the rules about landlord and tenant. Law is something that affects everybody. No matter what you do, there's always going to be a legal issue in it. Whether or not you're a doctor, an engineer, an accountant, no matter what profession you are, there's some aspect where you're going to have to deal with a lawyer, sometimes in a negative way and sometimes in a good way. What it's like to be an attorney. I love being an attorney. I love it because it's a challenging role. People look at you and they think, while you're in the courtroom, you're doing all this, and you secretly know that, you have a certain amount of power and you know the law, so you can kind of talk your way out of things, and it's actually a lot of fun. I love being in the courtroom. Like I said, I'm a litigation attorney. I'm in the courtroom 4 out of the 5 days of the week. I'm in front of a judge, in front of a jury, and a lot of times I get yelled at by the judge, or I get these juries that look at me like, oh my gosh, she's too young to be an attorney. But I get up there, I say what I have to say, I argue my case, I argue my points, and it's very interesting. The other thing about being an attorney is you can watch the news, Benny on the news, and she can say something about this happened, and this person's verdict came out to be this person got indicted, and it's really neat that you can follow this, that you know what's happening. The other thing is, I'll tell you an example, when the O.J. Simpson trial was going on, at least 10 people in this room called me and said, so what is going on to me? I see that there was this thing called an indictment. So I said, okay, this is what this is, and I explained it. And it's good because I feel good, like I can tell people. I've had people ask me about questions about legal stuff, like, they have a problem, this happened or that happened. And it's neat that I feel like I can contribute to my community by being called upon and saying, okay, this is what you should do, this is what you should, what law to look at, maybe what you can think about doing, maybe you should get an attorney. So it was pretty good. There were a couple of myths about law school, and I just want, especially for the younger generation, in order to go to law school, you need to have a 4-year degree. You can't graduate from high school and go to law school. The other thing is, in order to practice in the courts here, you need to be bar certified. And those are some of the things that people, most ask questions that people ask me. Do you need to go to college to become an attorney? Yes, you do. You need to have a 4-year accredited degree, and then you need to go to an accredited law school, which is another 3 years. So it's 7 years altogether. So if a lot of the youth here are thinking about going to law school, it's a decision that you want to make early on, like probably in your first or second year of college. Some of the things you need to think about before you go to law school. You need to think about your GPA, which is really important. Law school is very competitive. It's very difficult to get into. You need to be thinking about that in your first or second year of college, and you need to be thinking that, okay, my grades have to be high enough so that, I can get in. The other thing you need to think about and start preparing for is the LSAT, law school admissions test, which is 50% of, if you score well, it's what they look at to, let you in. That's pretty much what I had. I know a lot of people pretty much know what being an attorney is all about, but I just want to leave everybody with this one last thing. I just want to tell people that it's great to be an attorney. It's not for everybody, but you can take your law degree and you can go out there and you can do a lot of things with it. You don't have to be a practicing attorney. You can become an engineer, or you can do something else. You can be a patent attorney, and it's not really going into court or dealing with a lot of other lawyers. It's a lot of other aspects of it too. The other thing a lot of people do with their law degree is they become politicians. So that's also a good field to do too. Somebody once asked me, and this is really directed to the youth, somebody once asked me, what was your proudest moment about being a lawyer? And I can honestly say that the 2 best times, my proudest moments was the day I graduated from law school, and I walked across that stage and got that Juris Doctorate degree and looked over at my parents and saw how proud they were. The other most important and proudest moment in my life is the day I received my bar scores and found out I passed. I called my dad, who was in India that day, and hearing his voice and letting him tell me, having heard him tell me how proud he was of me, that was just, to me, probably the best experience. And I'm very proud to be up here and very happy to be asked to speak about being a lawyer. It's something I'm very proud of, and I hope if any of you out there are thinking about going to law school and becoming an attorney, that you'll definitely talk to me about it. I have just all good things to say about being an attorney. Despite what you hear about attorneys, it's a lot of fun, and it's a great pleasure to be an attorney. Thank you.
I'm sure there are plenty of questions to ask as Tony, won't you? Anybody ask any questions to Benny?
No.
I'm sorry, Sunny. Go ahead.
Can you major in chemistry and go to law school? Or do you have to major in legal science or political science in order to go to law school?
Okay, it doesn't matter what you major in. I suggest that if you're thinking about going to law school and you haven't already decided on a major, that you think about majoring in something like English. That's a big factor. I mean, reading and writing and researching is a big part of law school. And, having great English skills is good. Not just English as in speaking, but English as in vocabulary. Lawyers use big words, and in order to be articulate and be able to understand other attorneys, English is a good thing to major in. You can major in whatever you want to. They don't look at what you really majored in. They look at, the 2 things they look at are your GPA, how you did in whatever you majored in, and your LSAT scores. So those are the 2 most important things. And if you like to read and you like reading comprehension and, like I said, analytical reasoning and computation, deducing, then, you should be you'll do fine on your LSAT. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have to know how to lie?
I know a lot of people out there say lawyers are liars. All they do is they don't tell the truth. They lie about anything. That's not true. We have an ethics code that says that we have to tell the truth. How you tell the truth is another thing. You can tell the truth in various ways. Everybody knows how to stretch the truth or add on to the truth. And what we do is we argue and we argue for our client in the best way we know how, in the light most favorable to our client. So maybe we take that truth and we stretch it out a bit and we talk circles around it, but we really don't lie. We really do tell the truth.
What do you know the truth? What if a person has committed a crime? Do you know if he's committed a crime or
What
is
is
it
truth?
Right. Well, when I was a criminal defense attorney, I had a client come up to me, and I looked at his sheet and I said, "Okay, Mr. Jose Rodriguez, it says here that you have been picked up for armed assault and robbery." And I said, I didn't even ask, "Did you do it?" I just said, "You weren't there, were you?" And he said, "Oh, no, I wasn't there at all." I said, "Okay, you must have an alibi." "Oh, yeah, my brother here, Frederico, he'll testify for me." Great, you put him on the stand, he says his thing, and he's off. But that's just a rare thing that happens. Most of the time, the DA has good evidence that says, okay, this person did it, we have proof and stuff like that. So all we try to do is say, okay, he didn't really mean to steal and kick and rob this person, he was just having a bad day, And that's what we do. We talk to the judges, we plead with them, we plead with the jury. Please see that our client, he's really a nice guy. I know he has a rap sheet that's like 4 pages long, but he's really a nice guy. And we use those kind of techniques to try to get him off, But a lot of times if they're guilty, they're guilty. We try to get them a lighter sentence. So it's not like we try to let the guilty go free. We don't do that.
what's the hourly fee?
I'm a state employee, so I get a salary, but a lot of attorneys charge depending on the case. If it's an easy case, like let's say it's a closing on a house, they charge like about $200 an hour, or maybe like an $800 for the whole thing. If you're a civil attorney and you practice in personal injury and you have a case like a car accident or something, you'll take 33 and 1/3% of what the total recovery is. So if it's $1,000, you only get about $300, but if it's $1 million, you get a lot of money. So it's kind of good. The going rate in Boston is about, for attorneys that are practicing about 5 years or more, is about $275 an hour. In Springfield, it's about $125 an hour.
What about paralegal studies?
Okay, paralegal studies is, what it is you don't need to go to college, but they do have like a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies. I don't know too much about being a paralegal, but I hear it's like a 1 or 2 year course, and it's not really, it's basically, you do all the procedure work all the paperwork that attorney gets. Oh, the money? Paralegal studies is good money. That's what I hear. It's pretty good money. I'm not really sure, but I think it's like over $35,000. So I think it's good studies, and you don't need to have a college degree to be a paralegal. You can go right from high school and take a course and become a paralegal.
Yeah, right.
Is it easy to move from field to field in law, or is it tough?
No, it's actually, when you go to law school, your first year is all concrete first-year courses that you have to take. So I took contracts, which is all contractual relationships with people. If you go into a business with someone, there's always a contract there. Property, which has to do a lot with real estate and your own, your own land, things like that. Then there's civil procedure, there's criminal law, there's torts, which is personal injury. Those are your core courses. Once you take them, you can pretty much move to field. It's when you go into your 2nd and 3rd year of law school that you start to specialize in something. I knew I wanted to be a public interest lawyer. I knew I loved criminal defense and criminal prosecution, so I started taking a lot of criminal classes. But when I graduated, I had courses under my belt in bankruptcy, copyright, landlord-tenant, secure transaction, corporations. So I could be a general practitioner right now, which is not really the going rate right now, but I could still do general practice. If you had a personal injury case, I could take it. If you got arrested for some reason and you have a criminal case, I could take that too. So it is not difficult at all to move from field to field, especially because it's not really the law that you learn in law school, it's the theory behind everything. You learn how to read, how to analyze cases, how to present your case in the best light possible. You don't really learn the law. There's books and statutes out there with statutes and common law that you can read those and practice and say, okay, this is what a person does, this is the law. So those are the things you learn in law school. So to answer your question, yes, it's very easy to move, except if you're going to be a patent attorney. That's the only difference in law. If you want to be a patent attorney, you have to have a 4-year degree in an engineering or technical, some kind of technical degree. And then patent law is a specialized field with its own bar.
Okay, let's give a round of applause to Linda. Invite Sujit to take the floor.
I was going to start my talk with a joke about lawyers, but I don't want to be sued for libel. I graduated from Carnegie Mellon in May of '94 with a major in engineering, or a major in mechanical engineering and a minor in biomedical engineering. And during my time there, I had a number of different summer jobs. Some of them were engineering related, some of them were not. But the biggest thing about them was that a lot of them, that they were different, and they kind of gave me a flavor for what the industry would be like eventually. And it also helped. It helped me to get, I'd say it was a good part of what helped me get a job later on. And not only in terms of confidence in interviewing, but also in terms of people looking at you and not seeing just the average college grad. When I graduated, I ended up working for Allied Signal. And as Uncle said, we do seatbelts and airbags for the industry. Some of the vehicles we do that you might be familiar with is the Chrysler minivan, for instance. We have a number of Japanese programs, but most of our business is domestic. It's interesting. What basically happens is a customer comes to us and says, we have this vehicle coming up. So in that facet, it's really neat because we see the vehicles way ahead of time. And we start seeing all the things that are involved in its crash performance and whatnot, and decide what kind of a system we're going to have to design so that in the end, when somebody gets into an accident, they're able to walk away from it. And it's pretty involved. It's not, nowadays, I know in the past, most of you think that the seatbelt goes on and off, and that's about it. What you're going to see in the future is a lot of new technology. Seatbelts are going to be able to adjust to people's sizes and weights, and in some cases, we're going to be able to have just the seatbelt react without the airbag in very, very serious accidents, and people are still going to be able to walk away just because of the newer technology that's coming out. Now, I know when I was going to school, I was kind of worried that even though I loved engineering, and the reason I liked it was because of just my natural curiosity, that I didn't want to be locked into being an engineer. I know that up until then I'd heard that all engineers did was get locked away in some sort of office, and they figured out equations and formulas all day long. Sometimes that is the case, but a lot of times it isn't. Nowadays, companies they're changing. Even though Allied itself is a large company, it's very localized in the way it's controlled. My division in particular doesn't really do much with its headquarters other than reporting how much profit we made last year and so on and so forth. But the advantage of being in a locally controlled company is that we get to do other things than just figuring out equations and designing seatbelts and airbags. I've been fortunate enough to actually travel a little bit, to Mexico a couple of times to visit our plants, and also to our customer in Korea, which involves giving technical presentations and talking about some of our products. So there's a lot of different facets involved, and I really do enjoy it. I think, as both Sunny and Betty said, a lot of what goes into making a job successful is that you really have to love it, and I do like it. And I don't really, although occasionally when the rent check or the rent bill comes, I do think about the money, but for the most part, I don't. And you tend to put in the extra hours because you do like what you're doing. At times, things can get frustrating, and I know there are times I think to myself that I'm way too young to be this stressed out about anything, but it is fun, and I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things. In 5 years, I probably will not be in engineering. I'd like to move on to more of a broader spectrum of things, maybe into a business development area. I know that some of my coworkers are actually in law school and they're having the company pay for it. And the biggest thing they can say is, if you can get somebody to pay for grad school, do it. And they're definitely taking advantage of it. So that's another interesting thing that I've enjoyed about engineering, and that there's a lot of choices. You don't necessarily have to stay doing it forever, because you are in an industry where you're building some sort of product, and with that product, there's a lot of other facets to it, such as sales and marketing, or business development, or anything, or just product liability, for instance. You can go in any of those fields, and it's a great place to kind of see what the future holds for you, or think about it, and you can always go back and if you want to go to med school or become an attorney or whatnot. So pretty much in a nutshell, I think a lot of you know what engineers do, and if you have any questions, I'm open to entertain them.
Any questions to your way?
Does your head hurt from being crash test dummy?
Morton Tactile also is a similar company like Lahayil, or
Morton is one of our competitors, and Morton was, although Morton International is who does the airbags now. They broke off from Morton Tactile, I think, for some political reasons, and also they didn't want to be tied to the aerospace industry, but they do airbags. I think some of you are probably familiar with TRW. Every time you get a credit statement, they say, well, we've got to contact TRW. They happen to also do steering column design and airbag seatbelts as well. I do have one other thing I should probably tell you. For any of you who have kids, I know you've probably heard a lot about airbags killing children and whatnot. The truth is, really, you should be putting the child seat in the back seat. I mean, whenever there's an airbag involved and there's children involved, you really shouldn't have the child in the front seat. So if you can, remember that and pass it on, it'll be something that's valuable to know.
Great. Thank you very much. So just moving along, we have one of the relatively unheard of, probably at least among our people, would be waste management, reprocessing of waste, purification of water. And these are things which are really relatively highly lucrative business these days, very profitable. It's an industry which is probably not heard of, but I think there's a lot of job opportunities. People who go into that area have significantly good prospects of getting high-paying jobs. So I'd like to have Paul picture the scenario.
Take down a gear battle afterwards, you can tell me about where those really high-paying jobs are. I'm Paul, and I have two questions. First question is, how many of you are sick of seeing me talk to you? Thank you. Second question is, how many of you are thirsty? Okay. For those of you who are thirsty, thank you, Priya. Anyway, those of you who are thirsty would like a nice tall glass of water. Think of the work that we do as environmental engineers. When you drink that water, that's our business. It's a large part of our business, is providing clean drinking water. It's something that we don't think about very often because we always have water on tap, and we always trust it. But that's the bulk of our business, and it's incredible how much goes on with that. When I say I'm an environmental engineer, it's interesting because I usually get one of two responses. One is the one that Tisanti, my aunt, and my cousin, and all give me all the time. So it's like, so when are you going to crawl into the sewers again? Or when are you going to go into the garbage dump or whatever? So that's one of them. The other one that I like better is, oh wow, really? That's great. You're saving the world. Oh. Well, I won't say neither. Maybe it's a little of each. Maybe that's more appropriate. But I guess I'm an environmental engineer within an environmental consulting engineering firm. What we do is, it's a little different from an environmental activist group, which you may automatically associate it with. An environmental activist group is something more along the lines of Greenpeace or Environmental Defense Fund, things like that, where Greenpeace is the ones that will stop the whaling ships in the ocean and do, or the people who will camp out around redwoods in California and won't let them be cut down. And that's not really what we do. We see ourselves as trying to find practical solutions for the environment. We work with industries, we work with public clients, cities. Our big client is the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, which provides the drinking water for all of Boston and the surrounding area. The water that you drink here in Waltham is provided by the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, so we're responsible for conveying that water, we help them decide how to convey that water from western Massachusetts, near where Sunny lives, into Boston, and we're also responsible for treating it. However, if you do think that the water is bad here, that's probably due to the local things, and that's not our fault, of course. What I do specifically in my work is I'm a water resources modeler for now. I'm actually in a rotating program at work, so I get to, it's a nice thing, I think when you're looking for a company to work at, that's the thing that made me choose my company, was that I get to rotate into different groups every 6 months and see a completely different side of the company. It's a very large company, that they do diverse things, and that's the thing that attracted me to my company. Another thing that you should look for that I didn't really think about too much when I graduated is the growth potential of a company. That's definitely going to be an important factor in how quickly you advance, how much responsibility you get, things like that. So for people who are coming out into the workforce soon, think about the size of the office, the diversity of work opportunities, and the growth potential. So I'm in the water resources group right now. I've done a lot of computer modeling of water systems. I spent a long time doing hydraulic analysis of the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority system that brings water into Boston. They're building a new treatment plant to treat all of that water for 300 billion people every day. And there's also a new tunnel conveying water. And so there's a lot of modeling to do associated with that to make sure that all these multi-million dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money are going to be spent properly, and that these programs will work out. Another area that I've worked in is groundwater contamination. That's one of the important areas these days, is where you have hazardous waste sites, contamination in the ground, and you have to clean that up so that you don't have polluted drinking water when you pull it up in your well. And that's an area that you might have heard about a little bit last year at the career panel discussion. Kunyaman Uncle from Philadelphia, Bino, Hassan, they also work in that area. Our company is working, we are just starting a large water treatment plant design in Madras, actually, a reverse osmosis plant there. So it's actually, this is something obviously that's required all over the world, and developing countries is that they have different needs than we do here, but it's something that's needed just the same. I guess just for a little story of one of my most memorable experiences at work, it was the first summer that I started working there. I was doing a water quality study at Wachusett Reservoir, which is near Worcester, about half an hour west of here. And so I was spending a lot of time doing field work, collecting water samples. And we had a couple of parts of our program. One was collecting samples during storm events, because you want to find out what's coming into the reservoir from the surrounding areas. And so we had to go out at all hours of the night, depending on whether rain was coming. And so we'd be out on a bridge over the reservoir in the middle of the night, and have cop cars stopping us, and have to explain to them, no, really, I'm an engineer, I'm not about to jump. Another part of it, but a very small part of the project was, but an interesting one, was a seagull sampling project, where they were, at this particular reservoir, they were having problems with bacteria levels in the reservoir during certain times of the year due to seagull droppings near the intake from the reservoir. The seagull droppings were causing exceedances in the bacterial levels. And so they have a program to scare away, these are crazy things, these seem like such stupid things, but they're things that we have to worry about to protect you, the consumer. But so one interesting part of that was that I spent a week on the job researching night vision goggles, calling up the Coast Guard, calling up all the defense agencies around here, and calling up companies in California with Russian military surplus night vision equipment. And actually ended up spending 3 nights out on the reservoir. One of them was 20-degree weather in a sleeping bag on a cliff overlooking the reservoir with night vision goggles, and watching seagulls to see where they were on the reservoir, because they move at night, and we wanted to take samples when they left in the morning. So it's exactly what you would think of with an environmental engineer, I'm sure. So there's a good bit of opportunity for diversity. You have the comfort of knowing that you're doing something that is improving the environment around us, and that is a very big necessity of people, a necessity for people. And I think those are the things that keep me going. It's one last bit. The thing that helped me get a job was my co-op experience while I was in school, and that's something that I had to work out on my own. We have a co-op program at Cornell where I graduated from, but I had to contact this company on my own and annoy the human resources manager enough to give me a job while I was still a student. And I can't emphasize enough how important a co-op experience is, how important your summer jobs are when you're in college. As soon as you get that one good experience on your resume while you're in college, it'll help you, it'll carry you through the rest of your college career and afterwards. And just keep in mind that it's really to your advantage to start looking for a useful summer job while you're in college, because it's much easier to take on a college student than it is to take on a graduate. A college student is unintimidating. They know that if they don't like you, they're only stuck with you for a summer. And so for a lot of you, I know I'd be pretty scared of being stuck with you for more than a summer. So, wow. Thank you. No, so it's an easy way to get into a company, and then you get that name on your resume, and you can go from there. That's all I have to say. Any questions?
Once again, Paul, I appreciate that. And I think we had the benefit of the 4 people who were already employed. And now the question is, how do we get there? Now this is especially tailored for parents who have children who are going to college or who are going to pursue a college admission process. So I'm going to introduce one more time briefly for the benefit of the people who came in late. The gentleman we have as a guest here tonight is Mr. Terence Badawi. He's a program specialist with the MIT Educational Challenge Search Office working out of Cambridge, and he's going to give us his input on what it takes to get into the right college as well as the people who are concerned going to college. Again, welcome, Terence.
Good evening to everyone. No. I said good evening to everyone. Good evening. That's better. Well, first of all, I want to say it was very important to me to hear prayer this evening. I'm glad that I'm in the presence of Christians, people who fear and know God. So that was very important to me. I just wanted to say that. I just want to say that before I started. And I'd like to thank Paul, and especially Shiloh, where is she? Right there, for the invitation. I met Shiloh. I have to tell the story. She might not like it, but I have to tell the story. I met Shiloh at the Greater GBL, Greater Boston League track meet. Many of our students participated in that meet, and Shiloh ran for Alton High. And after the race, well, Charlotte, don't get mad at me, but Charlotte was last. Okay? But I said to her after she went by, I said, nice run, Walter. And she looked at me like, nice run, I was last. But then it reminded me of the scripture that says, you know, the race is not for the strong, but it's the one that endured to the end. And Charlotte, you know, you ran and you finished the race. Remember that. Try to use it as a metaphor for your Christian life. And for every one of us, that should be, I guess, our goal. Okay. I'm going to ask a question, and there's two people who can't answer. One is Benny and one is Suni. I think you guys were sitting next to me, so you might have seen my notes. So everybody else is fair game. And the question is, when should one begin to prepare for college? I think you guys saw that, right? Anybody want to take a guess? Paul? I pick you because I
I'll say 9th grade.
9th grade. Anybody else want to take a try? And it's not a trick question. And I don't have candy for the person who did. It's not a trick question. Nobody else want to try? Well, I'll give you the answer to that in a minute. But first of all, I have two quotes here. And the first quote is very important to me. Not because it's by Jesse Jackson, but because of what the quote says. And it says, a school system without parents at its foundation is just like a bucket with a hole in it. And that's very important to me, because I have two children. I mean, they're very young, one's 7 and one's 15 months. And I'm going to be involved in their education from now until they get whatever degrees they want to. And then they can take care of me. Right? Then the second quote is, one's work may be finished someday, but one's education never. That's Alexander Dumas. And the answer to the question was, I came up with this answer. I came up with this question myself. And it was, when do you start preparing for college? I wrote, preparing for college begins in the womb. Applying to college begins in the 12th grade. And the reason why I said that is, I mean, from the time a child's in the womb, you know, mothers, you know, they sing to the, I remember my wife used to sing, you know, I used to say, why is she singing? And my mother-in-law used to sing to the baby. You know, now my son has a beautiful voice. You know, I said, maybe my mother never sang to me because I can't sing for him. I can't sing at all. But my son sings very beautifully, and my daughter has a loud voice, so I don't know if she's going to be the next one to Jackson. We'll see. Anyways, high school takes 4 years, but I mean, I know time's running. I'm going to do it in about 10 to 15 minutes. So that's game for everybody? We're going to go through high school, 8 to 12 in about 10, max 15 minutes, maybe 16 minutes. That way I don't worry the saints. Okay. It says, do you know why you should be thinking about education after high school? So you can get a job? Someone says so you can get a job. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? Why you should continue your education after high school? Well, you don't have to continue your education after high school to get a job. After I got out of high school, I had a job. I was working at McDonald's. It was a great job. I quit because they didn't make me manager. They made everybody else manager. I quit. But let me continue. The answer to that question is education does pay off. But the more education you have, the more options you will have. And people who graduate from college earn more money than those who do not go to college, as much as 1 million more during their lifetimes. College graduates also have more career options and to move to higher levels more easily. So maximize your options by considering higher education. You know, as we approach the 21st century, you have to realize that if you want to be a teacher or a lawyer, you might have to change your career maybe 4, 5, 6 times. Because the security of having a job for 20, 30 years, that's gone. It's gone. It doesn't happen anymore. Companies are downsizing. companies they're changing policies, so it's hard for you. I remember my dad worked at Gillette, and he was there for years. And there are some people who are, MIT is going through a re-engineering right now, and there are a lot of people who've been there for 20, 30, one guy for 40 years. I'm like, wow. But that guarantee's not there anymore. So you need to continue education beyond high school. Now, those of you, I mean, Jacob mentioned that those of you said, oh, we don't need someone from MIT. I just work there. I'm not an MIT guy, so don't look at me as an MIT guy. I'm a regular, normal guy, funny guy. But one thing I want to say is don't set your limits low, because if you do, that's what you'll achieve. Shoot for MIT, and you know, if you end up going to someplace else, that's what happens. I mean, too many people, I think, set their goals too low, and then, you know, they say, oh, I'm not that material. I mean, if you can crack 1,400 on your SATs, you can get to MIT. And I know all of you have the potential for doing that. But however, you have to prepare for that. I think Benny and Suni mentioned that perfectly, and I wrote it down. You know, they said preparation. They both said they know what they want to do at a very early age. You might know what you want to do at a very early age. However, preparation is paramount. It's paramount in your lives. I mean, whatever career choice you've decided that you want to pursue, you got to prepare for it, and you got to start early, very early. That's in the womb. Okay. So we've gone from the womb, now we're at the 8th grade. All right. Wasn't that quick? That was about 2 seconds. Okay. What do you need to do? College preparatory courses. For you to get into college, most colleges, you need 4 years of English, 3 years of mathematics, including algebra 1 and 2, and geometry. And for those of you who are fretting about the SATs, that's all it is. Algebra 1 and 2 and geometry. There's no trig, no calculus. That's all it is. You master that, you know, you'll get that 1,400 that you want, and you'll get into MIT if that's what you want to go. If that's where you want to go, I should say. Also, science, you need 2 years of that. Social sciences, 2. For example, history, government, economics. Foreign languages, you need at least 2 of the same foreign language. Not 1 year French, 1 year Spanish. 2 Spanish, 2 French, or whatever other language it might be. And electives, 3 years of electives. Okay? And those are college preparatory courses. So in your 8th grade, what should you do? I keep mentioning parents because it's very important to me. My parents, I mean, I think they had maybe 6th or 5th grade education. However, they instilled in us that education is the most important thing that you can have. There's no one can take that knowledge from you. And I say that with passion because the reason they didn't get the opportunity to go is because we're from the Caribbean originally. I was born in Dominica, a small island in the Caribbean. And, you know, you either go to high school, you learn a trade, and after that, there aren't many choices for people to go like you have here in North America. So, maximize it. I mean, my parents, they always instilled to us education, education, education. And I know sometimes it's hard, you know, to agree with your parents, but they know what's best for you. And I really believe, and I honestly believe that there's no parent here who would want the worst for their children. So that's why I say education is a partnership between you, the students, the parents, and the school. And that's where I come in sometimes. You might consider me as a guidance counselor, because that's basically what I do. You can put me up with any guidance counselor in any school district, and I can do the job as well as they do. Probably even better, because I care. I actually care about every student that's in our program and every student I get in contact with at school. Parents, it says, students I should say, start out by telling your parents, your counselors, your clergy, which is very important, your homeroom teacher, and any other adult that you respect that you're going to college. The more people you tell, the more support you'll have. And it's very important that I always tell young people, if you hang around people who want to go to college and you have the same goals, you might attain them together. But if you're hanging around with people who don't have the same goals that you have, they might influence you otherwise. And you know, you might end up doing something that you don't really wanted to do. I mean, it happened only because of peer pressure. So remember, talk to people that you really care about, your clergy, your parents, adults that you respect. Dream about a career. You might want to be an engineer like Paul, an environmental engineer. Maybe you want to be, maybe you want to do airbags. Maybe you want to be a lawyer. Maybe you want to be a TV producer. Whatever you want to be, dream about a career and know what it takes for you to attain that career, okay? Well, we move on. It says work hard in school. I don't have to say that because you know that already. All of you guys know that. You got to work hard in school. But whatever you do, make sure that you talk to your parents. It's very, very important. And as you develop that relationship with your parents, one thing I admire, I mean, I'm looking at the room and everyone is Indian, and I'm black. My wife, she's half Indian. My dad is Indian and the mom is black. But one thing I admire about that culture is that the parents have great influence for the children. It's very important. In North America, you don't, I mean, like now the kids that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, sometimes you wonder where the parents are. And a lot of times the problems that we have in society, it's not just the kids' fault, it's because there are no parents. Either there's a mom or mom and dad in there to influence. So, take advantage of that heritage. You know, take advantage of it. Something very positive. And I admire that. All right, we're done with the 8th grade. We're going to the 9th grade. Welcome to high school. Remember, even if you don't move through high school until the 10th grade, because some schools go 7 to 9, your 9th grade courses and grades are included in your high school transcript. Remember to tell your parents and your new counselor, your homeroom teacher, and any other adult that you respect again that you want to go to college and you want to seek your advice. You want to make sure you take the right courses, college prep courses. You want to make sure you take those. Do your best in school. Your grades count from freshman year. Believe me, it's very important. A lot of kids sometimes go into high school and they have that slaughter the freshman year, but you can recover from that. And who says you have to finish high school in 4 years? Who said so? I mean, what if you've gone through 4 years of high school and you're not ready for college? You can repeat the last year, you can even go to prep school. I mean, there's not a rule that mandates you have to go through high school in 4 years. I mean, it's ideal if you did that, but if you didn't do it, it's okay. And that's something a lot of young people have to understand. I mean, I don't want to stand here and encourage everyone to take 5 years to finish high school. No, I'm not saying that. But if that's what it's going to take for you to reach your optimum and reach the goals that you want to achieve, I encourage you to take the extra year. Do it. It says, do your best in school. It says, are you involved in extracurricular activities? I always mention extracurricular activities for two things. One, it's important that you do them because admissions counselors look at them. However, make sure they're not paramount. Make sure they're not. Make sure. Because if you're on track and you're flunking math, quit track. I'm serious. I told my son right now he wants to play the drums because I play the drums. I want him to play the piano because I figure it's all mellow. He wants to play the drums. I said to him, I will teach you the drums. One condition, you get all A's. I mean, I know that's kind of hard. People look at me and say, gosh, you're hard on that kid. Well, I mean, he can do whatever he wants. He gets great grades, and that's fine. Do whatever you want. I think it's important that you have extracurricular activities, but remember, you're in school to learn, not to run track, unless if you're good enough to get a scholarship, Shiloh. Okay. Continuing, it says, think about careers that interest you. You know, I mean, it's nice to talk to your parents, but also try to inquire. Try to inquire about different careers that might interest you. I mean, your parents might say they want you to be a certain thing, but make sure it's in harmony with what you want to do, you know, and discuss it together as collectively. It's something that's very important, because you don't want to be a lawyer and then find out you want to be an engineer. I mean, you can still do it, but why not find out what you want to do at the beginning and then stay on that track? Okay. Remember, it says create a college file. It's very important that you create a college file. You keep all your grades, you know, if you belong to certain clubs, you keep that information and keep it in a safe place because it's important. You know, 4 years down the road when you're applying to college, all this information you're going to need it for your admissions file. Okay. Okay, we're almost done with the 9th grade. It says all of this may seem like a lot to do, but it's worth it. Take it step by step and remember why you want to go to college. Okay? Now we're in the 10th grade. I think I'm doing pretty good time. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good time. We're in the 10th grade. It says review your 9th grade and 10th grade classes with your parents. Whatever you've done through the 9th grade, review it with your parents and review what you're going to do. Review what you're going to do in the 10th grade. You want to make sure that you're in college, I should say AP courses, college prep courses. You want to make sure, even if you're not going to college, make sure you're in it. Because down the road you might decide I want to go to college. And it doesn't matter if you go into a career right after high school or if you go to college. The AP courses, you're going to need it in whatever career you do. Even if you want to go into your own business, you're going to need it. Those are basic skills that you're going to need for whatever you do. So make sure that you're in AP courses. It says start getting ready now for the Scholastic Aptitude Test, the SATs. Make sure you're getting ready for your SATs. There are some students who are very good and very bright, and in the 10th grade, their counselor might recommend that they take the PSAT. It's a preliminary, it's a practice for the SAT. You don't have to take that, but you can if you want to. And start thinking about it. Make sure, find out how many questions are there, and make sure that you know what it takes to study for this. One thing we usually tell the kids in our program is, there's a book called Barron's that you can get at any bookstore. We find out how many pages is in that book, and one summer, divide the days in the summer into how many pages, and then study the number of pages. It might sound tedious to you. You might be like saying, what is Terrence talking about? My summer vacation wants me to be studying for the SATs? I mean, it might be the difference between getting to the school of your choice or settling for college. I think the ideal for everyone should be to get to the college of their choice. Not settle for something that you really want. Okay? It's also important that you talk to your counselor. Make sure, again, you'd be surprised how many kids go through high school and met their counselor once or never met them. It's incredible. Make sure your parents know who they are. It's important. Parents, make sure you know who your kids' counselors are. It's very, very important. Get to know them, talk to them. Make sure that everything that you guys are doing are in harmony together. It's very, very important. Okay, we move down. It says, now you should start visiting colleges. Go to college campuses. Make trips. Colleges will accommodate you. They'll plan special trips for you. They will, for instance, a great example now is like you have all these people here. One of the great things you can do is they have college tours. You know, have them go visit different colleges. It would be great. So it's very important that you start thinking about that, and also how you're going to start financing that college education. So we're moving along with the 10th grade. We're moving right into 11th grade. It says the heat is on right now. Take a deep breath. Let it out. You will have a lot to do this year. Hang in there and do your best. You can do it. You know, the reason why a lot of people fail is because they don't have encouragement. And I don't think that